My name is Oliver Matthews. I am the 40-year-old adult son of two narcissistic parents. My mother is a narcissist, borderline personality disorder, and my father is narcissistic personality disorder. Some of you might have already have seen my original posting of a phone call I had with my mother about 4 years ago, right before I went no contact when I left New Jersey to relocate to South Florida. And I've been no contact with them since divorce, and I'm going to get into that. What I wanted to do here was start a video blog of my thoughts and basically go through my life from my earliest memories of childhood, stories that I want to relate and tell and get out there, and hopefully it can help some other people. Some other people can relate. Maybe some people give feedback back to me, do some video responses back. I think everybody can help each other out with, because this narcissism thing it's brutal. It's brutal and it doesn't go away. And it's just a monster and it's devastating, and, you feel alone and you just feel out there, and, on one hand, you're real happy, at least on my end. I'm real happy that there's other people, similar stories, exact same stories, because I always thought it was just such a freak that nobody could understand. And on the other hand, it's even more depressing. What does that say about humanity? That there are so many people in this world that are programmed to do and say the exact same things and react the exact same way. And, that alone can make you feel pretty small, I think, in the grand scheme of, humans and the universe and what have you. It's depressing. It is. And, you gotta keep a positive outlook. And I found, it's better to see the stories and hear the stories and than to not know about them, because at least you're not alone and you're not a freak. Especially for me, because I had such a hard time with it, and my identity, and just who I am as a person and what I wanted to be as a person. I still don't really know. I'm 40 years old, and I'm just starting to think about now what exactly I want, and that's why I wanted to do this is as a series of how I got there, and I think how maybe we all got to where we are in life. So I wanted to start today, because everybody, I suggest you could check out my phone call with my mother, and some of you probably already heard it, so you know what the basis is for her, and I'll be talking a lot about her. I wanted to start off with a story about who exactly my father is, so you have an understanding of the type of person you're dealing with. My father started scamming the Social Security system at 41 years old, a year older than I am now. Some kind of thing that nobody could figure out, but he couldn't work anymore. So he was at home, and one night we had this elderly lady lived across the street. One night he comes home and it was icy because it's New Jersey, and that year it was 93. There were a lot of blizzards. Found her at the bottom of her front steps, and she had like a long set of brick front steps. Where we lived, it's a lot of money, very affluent. We all had these these really nice fronts of the houses, big front steps. So this woman was 80, 82, 83 years old at the time, bloody, cut up, falls down. You know, he calls the ambulance, and they take her to the hospital, what have you. So he ends up, she comes home, she really doesn't have much family, or she doesn't have really any family. My father starts checking in on her, and within 6 months, he had her sign her house over to him, will her house and all her possessions to him. And I think she was dead within another 6 months. So within a year, he found a woman at the bottom of the staircase, and then went over to take care of her a little bit, bring her things, and got her to sign over all her worldly possessions to him. He ended up selling her house for $225,000, and I think it was another $150,000 in assets on top of it. And that's the type of narcissist my father is. He'll steal the shirt off your back and smile at you while doing it, make you think he's doing you a favor. The type that will always make you think like you're crazy, and make you believe it, like, well, maybe I am crazy, as he's, screwing you over, making you feel bad that he's screwing you over. And he's the ultimate salesman. Something my ex-father-in-law used to call him the ultimate salesman. He could sell anything. Always wheeling and dealing, always BSing, incapable of telling the truth. Incapable of telling the truth about anything. So there's kind of the basis of my father. It's a pretty horrible thing, what he did to that woman. Not that he mistreated her, but that money, she was planning on giving it to an orphanage or Boys Town in Newark, New Jersey, it was definitely some sort of orphanage. And he ended up getting her to will it to, because he deserved it, because he would take her to the doctor or bring her. It was horrible. And then to have everybody rifling through her stuff the day she died, the day she died, they were in that house, and I was there included. My mother, my father, my brother, and me in that house, going through, searching her. What can they sell? And then here's the thing. My parents have money. They got a lot of money. They got their own money. They got family money on both sides. It wasn't really about the money. It was about the conquering, the acquiring. Look what I got. Look what I did. And for my father, it was about everybody thinking what a wonderful guy he is. Oh, there he is, taking care of the sick woman. Isn't he the best? Isn't he the best? Oh, and he's sick too. He can't even work. Meanwhile, there ain't nothing wrong with that dude. There ain't a thing wrong with that guy. Everybody's pitying on him, oh, he's so sick, and yet he's helping this old woman. Oh yeah, Brian, I think it's great she left you the house. She gave you the house. She left you the house. Really? Did you think about this? That's the type of charisma my father has. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. I didn't even realize how dangerous he was until maybe 5 years ago. That I really realized that he was the problem. Because my mother's so outwardly aggressive that he can actually hide his narcissism behind my mother, because my mother's borderline personality narcissist. So he's basically hiding back there playing the victim. Oh, this poor Brian with this crazy wife out there. Oh, I don't know how he does it. Yeah. And then meanwhile, he's just building sympathy and capital of just looking, and he feeds off that. That's like his energy, like that pity, and people just thinking, not even pity, just people thinking how great he is it's like the greatest drug in the world for him. He can't get enough of it. He's always going to take the opposing side. Which is why it shouldn't be surprising, which I knew, and I knew when I knew my marriage was over, and I knew I had to get out and had to get a divorce. Like, one of the things that basically kept me in the marriage was I knew my parents were going to turn on me. Even though for 14 years, all they did was complain about my wife. That's all they did. But I knew it, and I didn't know why I knew it until I thought about it. And I remember when I was a kid, one of my father's sisters, she was married less than a year. She wanted out of the marriage. And the whole family freaked out. And I remember going down to my grandparents' house, my father's parents, and walking in the living room. And there's the husband, my Uncle Greg, who's not the family. He's the outside member, sitting there crying. Everybody, oh, Greg, this is the worst. This is the most horrible thing ever. Lita's the worst. So, like, basically my whole family has to throw your own family member under the bus and crowd the other person. And I remember my father eventually had my aunt over to the house, and I heard what he was saying to her. You'll be out of the family. Nobody's going to care about you. You got to go. You're going to go back. You're going to do. You're going to be done. And she broke, and she was scared, and she went back. And she ended up, years later, freaking out and going no contact. And at the time, I didn't realize what everybody was just like, oh, Lita's crazy, Lita's crazy, Lita's crazy. That's the aunt. But Lita wasn't. I figured out now, Lita wasn't crazy. Lita went no contact. Lita went no contact because they forced her to be in a marriage she didn't want to be in. She didn't even have kids at the time. She wasn't even married to this guy a year yet. And the whole family turns on her. For what? She's your sister. And then my father did the same thing, so it wasn't any surprise that my father would do the same thing to me when I got a divorce. Finding some kind of fault with me, ends up paying for my ex-wife's attorney, shows up in court to testify against me. For what, I have no idea. But like, he just thinks like he's Perry Mason because he sits home all day watching Law and Order and thinks that's how the judicial system works. It was soul crushing to see your own father come to court to testify against you. But it shouldn't be a shock, because when my brother was 17 years old, they found a marijuana seed in his car. They turned him into the police, their own son. Always, and that's my father's personality. Always, there's Brian, always doing the right thing. He doesn't, at the direction of his own son. And what's even more disheartening about all that, with them turning against me at the divorce, even though I knew it was going to come, and how bad it really is what they did to me, is, I moved to Florida, and, wherever you're watching this, there was a case where there's a mother down here who basically killed her own kid in a car. What? And then she's at trial. She ends up blaming her brother and her father for raping her, all types of abuse. They're the one, says they killed the kid. They did it. They also raped me, abused me. And there's her parents sitting on her side of the courtroom, supporting her. knowing she murdered her own kid. I got a divorce. My father showed up in court to testify against me. About what? I have no idea. You know, I didn't cut the lawn right the way he liked. But that's the way it's always been. So it's stories like that. So my next video, I'm going to basically start from when I was a kid, from my earliest memories. And I do have one thing, I have a memory like a steel trap. And I'm not going to hold anything back, and as it comes out, I'm going to bring it up, and feel free to comment or respond, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.